Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Stel Space. I'm your host Stel, and I'll be here every Tuesday at 11 a.m., bringing you mainly, let's try that again. Bringing you mainly pop culture news and, typically some music and film discussions. Let's see. Today, it is a bit overcast out here in Tampa Bay. It is currently 83, 87 degrees, but we do have a high of 91 with some chances of rain. Let's see, about in a couple hours, but hopefully we do get some rain cuz we've been having that drought recently. We could really use it. But, like I said, I'm mainly going to be doing pop culture, but don't be surprised if I come in some weeks with some animal education and conservation. I care about that world out there. It's very interesting. But today we have a little bit of streamer news, and to tie along with that, we have a little bit of A-list celebrity news, and a reoccurring segment weekly is typically gonna be our House of the Dragon recap. We got a long one today. We got 4 episodes to cover, so we got we got plenty of time to get into that. We got a Dune 3 trailer that just came out. Super exciting. Love Dune. Love the director. Very, very excited for that new movie. I think I want to say winter 2026, hopefully. And to end out our shows, we are going to have a weekly segment of Media of the Week where I will go through my media of the week. Whether I watched a bunch of movies that week, if I listen to a lot of music and I want to give them a shout out, I will do that here. But let's get off to the races to our streamer news. We just have a little bit of streamer news just to tie into our A-list celebrity news. Streamers, they're out here. They're influencing things. They got a lot of eyes on them. But we got two of my favorite streamers getting engaged. They said a few months ago, but they just announced it because QT Cinderella just accidentally showed off her ring on Hassan Piker's stream. Exciting stuff. But we got Cutie Cinderella engaged to Ludwig Ogren. I am so happy for them. I wish nothing but the best for my favorite streamers. I hope they have a wonderful, wonderful time. And to tie in to some engagement news, we also had a very big wedding. Let's see, that was 10 days ago now. So Taylor Swift got married to Travis Kelce. If you've been living under a rock, I'm sure we all know that they got married in New York City at Madison Square Garden. Don't know why, don't know why. Well, okay, I guess I do know why. We do know why. There's security purposes. The president was just there a few weeks ago for the Knicks game. The Knicks, the Madison Square Garden, they could handle security. They got it covered. They did, however, rent out Madison Square Garden. New York Mayor Mamdani confirmed that Taylor Swift did pay $160,000 for the permits to rent out Madison Square Garden and to shut down the 4 corresponding streets around Madison Square Garden. I'd say, yeah, $160,000. Wish it could be me, but considering they did donate, allegedly, around $26 million to various charities to throw their private event, a couple weekends ago. Some things can tie together and come together. But, a Madison Square Garden wedding, sounds a little big, sounds a little, I don't know. I don't really know what they were thinking. You know what they say, if the wedding was a little charming, maybe it was a little gauche. There's, only so far new money goes. If only our girl got married at her holiday house, like she references in that song, the last great American dynasty. But, with things like the Tennessee Titans wedding that happened maybe a couple years ago, not too sure about that. That wedding looked very beautiful, though, I will say. Very beautiful. How would I say? Like a greenhouse vibe, very floral. They had like pastel blues. Beautiful wedding, beautiful wedding. Interestingly, just placed very in the center of the Tennessee Titans stadium. And, understandably, because they can completely transform a venue like that. So, maybe you just gotta give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But with being married at a very public space like the Madison Square Garden, they, had the MSG workers helping them out inside of there. They got some photos leaked, unfortunately, to them. Not so unfortunate to us, I would say, however, because we got a little sneak peek to see, you know, the top class, how they get to party, how they get down. But on with guest lists, we had, people speculating that Blake Lively wouldn't be at this wedding. Now, why wouldn't Blake Lively be at her best friend's wedding? You had Taylor Swift supporting her with some pretty big things the past couple years. Blake Lively was in a big bit of drama with the movie she was in and producing with director Justin Baldoni and the author Colleen Hoover. Cannot remember what that title was, but but honestly, Taylor's got to have her best friends back. But with other people coming in to visit Taylor's wedding, we got Carly Kloss pulling up in a gold dress. In a gold dress. That is huge news for a very, very small, subgenre of Taylor Swift fans. Some people speculate that Carly Kloss and Taylor Swift were together for their friendship. That was like 10 years ago now. Ooh, but, with songs like Gold Rush from Taylor Swift's album Evermore, with lyrics like, what must it be like to grow up that beautiful, with hair falling into place like dominoes, you just can't help but feel like those lyrics are about a supermodel like Carly Kloss. But, you think Carly might have brought that dress so Taylor could take it off? I don't know. I don't think so. You know, they might have carved each other's names in their bedpost because they might not have wanted each other as best friends, but who knows? Only they would know. And, going back to maybe like Blake Lively, MSG does have some underground entrances. So it wouldn't be unlikely that some people just might not want to be seen entering a big event that might have been a little controversial because they were shutting down some streets in a very public, busy city. But, you know, people gotta live. People gotta live. But with that, allegedly, Stevie Nicks and Paul McCartney performed at their wedding. That would be a show to see. People were speculating that Taylor would be performing at her own wedding. I don't know why. I don't know why they would think that. I mean, I guess I understand why. They think she's a bit more cheesy than she puts off to be. Unfortunately, she did not perform at her own wedding. That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. But you know what else is crazy? That people are selling the trash that was outside of Madison Square Garden for $25 a pop. I don't know, man. People got to make a living. You know, Taylor Swift's in there. She's spending lots of money. People got to make money off of that, I guess. But with that, we will be back in a few minutes. And we are back. We are back. And you know what? We are back and better than ever. I feel like I am 22 years old all over again. We got House of the Dragon back on the air after a 2 year break. 2 year break. Oh my goodness. I don't know how we keep doing this. I don't know how we can handle 2 years in between. You know, honestly, such a good show. Yeah, season two got a little weak. Lots of build up in season two, but with that build up, we got a lot of payoff at the beginning of season three this year, kicking off, let's see, like 4 weeks ago now. Cannot believe it's been 4 weeks since this first episode, this huge first episode. We opened up with the Battle of the Gullet. But you know, a little synopsis for the episode. We got driven by her faith in Allison, Rhaenyra positions herself to take King's Landing, while the Triarchy sails from Essos to take on Corlys in the Gullet. Lots of stuff happening in this episode. We gotta reset up a lot of stuff from last season. You know, we had, like mentioned, this 2 year break, so these writers had to reset up a lot of plot points from 2 years ago to tie us back into the show, right back into a lot of drama between these, not even these two different families. This is the same family fighting a civil war for their throne, what they think is their throne. But you know, we open up with a huge battle at the end of the episode, at least, with you know lots of build up for the battle of the Gullet. Interestingly, we get to see again, at least, from the ending of the the you know highly rated until the ending very successful TV show Game of Thrones. We haven't seen dragons battle with ships since the last season of Game of Thrones. Let's see, that was in like 2019. Oh, I'm getting old. I'm getting old. But it's very, very cool to see dragons fighting with armies on ships again. They are burning down the Triarchy army that sailed across Essos in their attempt to take down Lord Corlys because he has been a big problem for them over the years of their lives. One of the characters said she's been fighting him for 20 years, just trying to take him down so that the Triarchy can continue to, you know, live their lives. We got to think these people are the main characters in their own lives. We're following main characters in a TV show. Side characters have very important roles outside of the TV show. Lots of stuff going on. Interestingly, I loved the addition to the teeth of the show. It's fun, fun additions. They add a lot of stuff to the show. They change some things that we'll get into. The teeth was one of the things I liked. You know, we're talking about the gullet. Yeah, the teeth is gonna munch on those ships to take them down, swallow them down the gullet. But with this battle, we had Rhaenyra trying to go to battle, and her son, her eldest son, Jacaerys, not allowing her to go to battle, telling her Kingsguard to lock her up in her bedroom. You know, some people might remember there are two entrances to this bedroom. You know, not gonna not gonna get into that, I guess. Unfortunately, Jacaerys made a very bad decision because he did fall in this battle. But you know, can't 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 do much there, I guess. You know, you don't have a lot of experience in dragon battle. You think you have a lot of power because you have a dragon. Unfortunately, things aren't always going to go into your favor, but that leads us into the next episode with Queen's Landing. We got Allison risking everything to fulfill her end of the bargain that she made in the end of season 2, where she promised Rhaenyra that she would have her sons Aemond out of the capital into Harrenhal so that people can battle at Harrenhal outside of the capital, keep King's Landing in peace, and we can have the King Aegon at the capital still so that Rhaenyra is able to take the throne the way that she is supposed to. Unfortunately for Alicent, I'd say, and Rhaenyra, yeah, and for Rhaenyra because she's having quite a messy couple episodes when she gets to her throne. She finally gets her throne. Queen's Landing was the highest rated episode so far this season. Not so surprisingly because we are tying into the finish of the end of season 2. So of course it's going to be pretty climactic. We got to finish our storylines from season 2 to continue into our storylines of season 3. And with that, we have Emma Darcy giving a performance of a lifetime. They better win so many awards in award season. I do not I do not know how. How can somebody perform grief that way? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable in a believable way though. Unbelievable because I am at a loss of words. I just cannot imagine performing like that. Performing with a fake child, somebody they did spend a good amount of years together acting together. They they gave their heart and soul to that performance and, you know, lost a big piece to, her family. She lost her heir to her throne. After her, she, only has I guess she has a couple more sons after her eldest Jacaerys, but you kind of focus on your eldest son with recognizing them as your heir, getting them ready to take over your throne. But with that, now we gotta train the youngest. Hmm, who knows where her youngest son Joffrey is, though? I guess I I think they sent him to Pentos. He could be coming back from Pentos to King's Landing now. They're probably gonna get into that next season, but with a push from her husband and her uncle, Daemon Targaryen. He gets her up out of bed for grieving very briefly when she hears that Aemond Targaryen has taken his large, very large dragon out of the capital to go to Harrenhal, which gives Rhaenyra just what she needs to take the 6 dragons that she has. Yes, 6 dragons to the capital to peacefully, peacefully with her 6 dragons take the throne without any casualties. And she does. Mm, without any civilian casualties. We do have some Kingsguard casualties. That's very understandable. Surprisingly, though, we only have Daemon taking the capital with her, or more like taking the castle with her. They take the Red Keep from the Greens successfully, but to Rhaenyra's surprise, she does not find Aegon in King's Landing. Unfortunately for her, because she very, very much needs to remove his claim from the throne. And she needs to do that by publicly beheading him in front of a crowd in the Red Keep. and she doesn't get to do that, which leaves a bit of a messy transition for her because she is presented with Otto Hightower, which is Aegon's grandfather, Allison Hightower's father. He he is an interesting replacement. He's in the books, he's not supposed to die in this particular instance, but it still works for the TV show. Adds a lot of drama, lots of drama. We got Allison coming back into the throne room with her daughter, Helena Targaryen, and they both get to see, their loving father and their loving grandfather. They do have a messy relationship with them. They still appreciate all he's done for them. Lots of drama going on with this family, especially since that's not what Allison and Rhaenyra had in mind for this takeover of the throne by Rhaenyra. But, you know, messy, messy things. You play a stupid game, you win stupid prizes. Going back to Taylor Swift, she's always got a way with words. But we're gonna take another break really quick. And after this break, we are gonna get back into our House of the Dragon recap. And we are back with our House of the Dragon recap. We left off with episode 2 of Queen's Landing. Let's maybe tap into a little bit more with that. We got some dragon seeds coming into at the beginning of the episode. We had our dragon seeds, from Rhaenyra's side of the battle, joining the Battle of the Gullet, finishing off the battle. In the books, they are in the battle the entire time. For the show, you know, I do I do appreciate some changes. And it does make sense to make that change because it mm, I don't want to say shrinks the story a little bit, but you got your characters that you're going to focus on now. We're not going to focus on, originally there would have been like 5 dragons there the whole time. Now we got 2 there most of the time, and then we had Rhaena, who finally captured a dragon sheep stealer in the Vale. We're going to get into that for episode 3. But it was nice to see that the dragon seeds did get to go into the battle and finish the Battle of the Gullet for Rhaenyra because, as they were supposed to do in the show, they were supposed to wait in Harrenhal for for Aemond Targaryen, who does show up in Harrenhal. And what what an amazing scene that was. What a spectacular, visually stunning scene that was to see Vhagar flying over the largest castle in the country of Westeros, Harrenhal. It's very cool to see the largest dragon flying around there and, even getting to stick her head into the castle and burn some people to a crisp, unfortunately for them. But that leads us into Rhaenyra Triumphant, episode 3. Surprisingly, the lowest rated episode so far. But with the situation in King's Landing, it's not exactly what Rhaenyra anticipated. She's unable to locate her enemies, and with demands coming in from all sides, Rhaenyra must navigate a delicate balance between appeasing her supporters and consolidating her rule. And boy, oh boy, does she have trouble balancing those things. We have lots of drama continuing into this episode. We have Rhaenyra, trying to figure out how she's gonna rule without the gold. Luckily for her, she does get Damon to go to the Vale, the Eyrie, to collect a good amount of gold from Lady Erin, who did not, like she promised, send an army to help take the capital with Rhaenyra. So, unfortunately for her, well, maybe not so unfortunately, because she does get off a little bit scot free with just giving up some gold to Daemon. She does not like Daemon. Daemon's caused a lot of drama in the Vale, and she's had lots of issues with Daemon. She doesn't want Daemon anywhere near her sites, so of course she's gonna give, give Daemon the gold, give the queen the gold that she's asking for. And as Daemon is fleeing, he just so happens to run into his daughter. His daughter, who just so happens to be in a cave with this dragon named Sheep Stealer, who was at the Battle of the Gullet. Unfortunately for Daemon's daughter, Rhaenyra is searching for this person. Rhaenyra, very much believes that Rhaena had a lot to do with the death of her son. She wants a little bit of vengeance, a little bit of justice for her son, understandably so. Unfortunately for Rhaena, she's a little, back to play a stupid game, win stupid prizes. You were told to take the queen's sons to Pentos. You should have taken the queen's son to Pentos. But, she wants a little recognition. She wants her dragon. She wants her cake and to eat it too. I get it. I get it. Daemon does recognize her finally in this episode, which, you know, is nice for her. But she's not the only problem causing drama, because the hand of the queen to Rhaenyra Targaryen is also causing a bit of drama. He's finally recognizing his sons. He has two sons that he hasn't recognized all of these years. All of these years, he's not going to recognize these children that he has, but until now, when he's lost, his wife, he's lost his legitimate children, he's lost his not so legitimate grandchildren now with the death of Jacaerys Targaryen, or Jacaerys Valerian. you know, sad days for Corlys. But, he still has two sons. He still has two sons, and he's getting away with a bit of a bit of treason, because it is treason to say what he said to his queen Rhaenyra when he yells at her, and he luckily doesn't have to face any consequences for that. But Rhaenyra's gotta keep her her allies at bay the best she can, which she's struggling with a lot as she's not legitimizing Corlys's sons. She's not exactly giving the dragon seeds exactly what they want. They're expecting houses, they're expecting titles, kind of, now, since, Ulf White is asking to be called a Targaryen because he is a dragon rider. Lots of messy stuff happening for Rhaenyra Targaryen, unfortunately, since she can't, fulfill everybody's wishes. She still has to show strength. She still has to play, titles and lots of respectable things. But, understandably so. But we will take another break and we will continue into this most recent episode of House of the Dragon. And we are back to finish our House of the Dragon recap. This most recent episode continues to be more character driven, but continuing to be exciting with, some action scenes still happening. We got lots of AIM and Hightower drama to talk about. I'm not so I'm not so appreciative of AIM and Hightower right now. But we got Damon getting the gold from the Eerie. We got Rhaena. Rhaena's plot is interesting this season. She's taking plot from another character in the book, a very interesting character from the book named Nettles. Nettles grew up in the Vale, a low born. Yeah, because, her parentage is actually completely unknown, which is very interesting for the book. Very interesting for the book because she does get a dragon and she does ride the dragon Sheep Stealer in the book, which causes a lot of theories. Do you need to be a Targaryen? Do you need to be a Valerian? Do you need Valerian heritage to ride the dragons? She and, Corlys Valerion's bastard son uh, cause a lot of theories because their parentage isn't completely known. They don't know how they can ride their dragons. Nobody does, actually, because they're not exactly part of the family that can ride the dragon. Or maybe they are. Maybe they are. But, we got Damon covering for his daughter. He's finally stepping up to be a parent to Rhaena. Rhaena's finally getting her dragon. She's finally getting some things to do. So we gotta support her as much as we can, unfortunately, even if we don't agree with her fully. Because I do believe that she should do what she's told and, maybe follow her orders from the queen. But, we got Damon flying back to the capital with gold. He's covering for his daughter. He's presenting the queen with a head that's not Rhaena's head, just a random civilian, a goat herder that he found, and he can, dust this under the rug, what's out of sight, out of mind. He wants to protect his kid. He wants his wife to be happy. I get it. I get it. But unfortunately for Rhaenyra, she's just gotta, you know, go on with her days. Go on with her days. Interestingly, though, we got uh, hmm, some people not so happy with the takeover of Team Black with Rhaenyra Targaryen taking over King's Landing, taking over the capital of Westeros. We got some people revolting in the capital with, you know, graffitiing Queen of Bastards on some walls. Interestingly, though, a lot of the common folk can't exactly read. So, how much that propaganda is, working, it's beyond me. Beyond me. Beyond a lot of people. Unfortunately for her, though, she's not really thinking about if people can read the words that it says. So she's gonna send her guards into the capital and attack them. They're trying to get some answers. They want to know who wrote this, why are they writing this. They want to get to the bottom of it. They want to keep control. They want to keep peace. They want to keep order. Unfortunately, it's gonna keep making a bit of mess for Queen Rhaenyra. But, you know, with that, on the other side of things, we got Ormond's invasion of Tumbleton, which forces Rhaenyra into a bit of a corner since the people of Tumbleton did ally with Queen Rhaenyra since the last king before Aegon Targaryen, both of their father, their father, Viserys Targaryen, did, name Rhaenyra Targaryen as his heir. The people of Tumbleton, they want to keep following order. They want to follow the rules. They see that Rhaenyra was told to be the heir of the throne. They want to follow. They want to follow along with that. Understandably so. Ormond Hightower, however, doesn't want to follow with that. So he takes Tumbleton, surprisingly, to Rhaenyra, because, you know, Tumbleton's just a merchant house. They're not exactly fighting any battles. They don't have a army. They're not, they're just selling. They're selling food, trying to maintain order with keeping the general public at bay. They gotta, continue to sell food. They gotta sell goods. They gotta trade things. They gotta get things all over the place, all over the country. And with that, Ormond is in Tumbleton. Unfortunately for him, he's not getting exactly what he wants. He's not getting the Baratheon army to join him. He's not getting Aemond with his dragon, Vagar, to join him. So, unfortunately for Ormond, he's kind of stuck in a bad place. He's stuck in a place very close to 6 large dragons at the capital again. They did take that capital. And Ormond is only with a very small dragon on his side with Tessarion, the small, they call her the Blue Queen. She's just a small blue dragon. Cute little thing. She's ridden by the dragon rider Daeron Targaryen, another son of Alicent and Viserys Targaryen, their fourth child, their third son, their youngest child, though altogether. And Ormond has got some plots he's, trying to do. He walks up to Daeron and he goes, not only are we going to commit treason by trying to get Rhaenyra off the throne, we're going to commit treason on our own side and try to, take over the throne from the other green boys. The other green boys. We got Aegon Targaryen, who's still alive. We got next in line after him, Aemond Targaryen. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why he wants. I guess I do know why. He raised Daeron Targaryen in Old Town under the light of the Seven. So he's got his hooks in Daeron. Understandably so. So to top us off at the end of the episode 4, we have Ormond forcing Daeron to kill an innocent, well, in Daeron's eyes, an innocent civilian. In Ormond's eyes, not so innocent, since he did cause a bit of drama, since Ormond did have the soldiers from his army take over some houses in the city of Tumbleton. So we had, a bit of drama in some of these houses, and we had some of the soldiers attacking civilians and some of the civilians fighting back, and Ormond's gonna, show face, and in public, he's gonna show that, yeah, we're not gonna stand for our soldiers to attack civilians. That's not like us. We are high towers. We follow the way of the seven. We are good people. We're not like those nasty Targaryens. We do things right. Except we do things the way we want to do things because at the end of the day, we just have Ormond presenting a civilian that attacked a soldier in self defense of his sister to the Prince Daeron to be executed, unfortunately. Unfortunately. And unfortunately, Daeron does fulfill uh, Aemon's wishes with that. But, he's a young kid. He's a young kid. He has to do what he has to do. But that finishes us with our House of the Dragon recap. And when we come back, we will finish our episode with just some media that I went through this week. And we are back. We are back with media of the week. This week I did watch a lot of movies, actually, surprisingly so. Tapped into a lot of films. I go through waves where I'll watch a lot of movies occasionally, and I'll go through a good amount of phases where I won't watch a lot of movies. This past week I did watch a lot of movies though. I watched 6 movies in about, well, 3 days. I watched 2 movies a day. you know, but let's get started with media of the week. I watched Pitch Perfect. Pitch Perfect. Love Pitch Perfect. Absolute comfort movie. This movie means so much to me. And now that I am sitting in this radio studio, I get to fulfill my Becca Mitchell dreams of hosting my college radio show. And that is exactly why I watched Pitch Perfect. Do not judge me. I love Pitch Perfect. And in that same day, I also watched a completely opposite movie, but an also very comforting movie to me, Mona Lisa Smile. Very beautiful movie, very beautiful story. Lots of acting going on in that movie. We got Julia Roberts, we got Kirsten Dunst, love Kirsten Dunst. We got Julia Stiles and Maggie Gyllenhaal and Jennifer Goodwin. Oh, oh, ending gets me every time I watch it. Kirsten Dunst's storyline is so important. Not only that, every woman's storyline in that movie is so important. That movie, so important for women's suffrage, or at least covering women's suffrage. But also, I also watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit. These next 4 films were, well, three of the 4 films were from my childhood. So, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Can't believe I can't believe I watched that as a kid. A lot of us did watch that movie as a kid. That movie came out in 1988. Things were very different back then. Not too inappropriate, but a lot of innuendos, if I can say that word, you know, watching them as an adult, hilarious, hilarious. That movie has grown on me a lot since I've been a kid. I didn't really like that movie as a kid. I don't know why. I think it kind of freaked me out. Probably the corporation side of it that they're referencing as the bad guy. I could see that scaring me as a kid. I was very, very timid as a child. But with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I also watched a movie called Cool World. That movie came out in 1992, just, a couple years after Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Very similar film with, a live action cast with animated cast as well. Very interesting story. However, this one's a little bit older, a little bit more young adult, teenage film. Still an interesting story. And it's honestly on the same level as the former Who Framed Roger Rabbit. They're on the same level. They got similar vibes, but one's just not so looked at as a kids movie. Surprisingly, because I don't know if I necessarily think of Who Framed Roger Rabbit as a kids movie. But, following that, I also watched Jumanji this week. I love Kirsten Dunst, as I mentioned earlier with Mona Lisa Smile. Kirsten Dunst, former child actor who continued acting throughout her entire life. Jumanji, such a film movie, holds up so well still. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. Sad, sad, sad to see such a loving, comedic man. But it's still well appreciated to continue to go through his life's work and, enjoy it, enjoy it. And to follow Jumanji with another board game movie, we watched Zathura, a space adventure. This time starring Kristen Stewart, another favorite actor of mine, as well as Josh Hutcherson, also starring in these movie in this movie. Another, another group of child actors who did continue acting throughout their lives that I do enjoy seeing working still today, especially in this day and age with, child actors don't typically end up as well off as these three that I just mentioned, but I love to follow them into their work that they continue to do throughout their life. But that has been Stel with Stel Space. Thank you so much for joining me this week, and I will see you guys next week.